Hey everybody, welcome back to Aligning with Success. Mike DeMuccio here, your co-host with Dave Rolfe, two Royal Diamonds cooking. Let's see, it is March 31st. This is the last day of the month. You still got a few hours left to finish off whatever goals you had set. Like we always say, the month isn't over till the month is over. Next month is a new start, so get as much in as you can now because payday is on the 15th, and you want to bump that up as best you can. So Dave, we've been having a lot of conversations, and we're going to cover a few things tonight. But you were saying,
I was reflecting at all the work that we've done and the people that are on the call, and what I keep going back to with all the ventures that I've been involved with, both public companies, private companies, companies with hundreds of employees, companies with no employees, startup failures, fall aparts, bright idea. I was an entrepreneur with, with little education other than, fly by the seat of my pants. But what was most fascinating was the intensity with which I attacked what I was trying to accomplish. And I'm trying to give an analogy that makes sense. And the only thing that I can think of that makes sense is the dating process. So when you really like somebody of the opposite sex, and you're in that, you want somebody to play with and have fun with, live your life with, fall in love with, all of those kind of things, you get kind of intense in your direction as to what you do to go after that. You get kind of, you really go after what you're trying to go after. When you were a kid and you were playing in a sandcastles on the beach or whatever, the intensity, then the drive you had to get the job done and go swimming and ride your bike and all those kind of things. And I have to say that in order to be successful in anything, that's what you got to kind of do. And it's more. I was doing some study on some other areas of life and living, and even that too. The same deal. That makes sense, Maggie. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's that desire to have that relationship with what you're willing to do to make it happen. It's the same thing here. What are you willing to do to make the results happen? And so, and again, it's kind of like what we do is not difficult. What we do is mapped out. What we do is like it's a jigsaw puzzle. Here's all the pieces, and you just take the first piece and you do all the corners and you do the flat edges, and then you fill in the squares in between, and you go from step one to step two. And then you've got a Michael DiMuccio on one call, you got a Dave Rolfe on another call, you got all the mentoring, you got all the recordings, you got all the tapes, you got all the systems, you got all the support material, you got everything you need to do to make your own business. And when I look at this, and I spend a lot of money in 2024 trying to figure out the internet, and it's no different in the sense of trying to make that work to attract attention and what these guys do and the goofy stuff that's on that is promoted on a day-to-day basis. And here we have, 100% legitimate. I can tell you a quick story and I'll turn it over to Michael. I'm doing some volunteer work and I brought in a waterfall. And I put the waterfall near where I work because I wanted to have water wherever I work. Now, there are 60 staff members that facilitate this area on a day-to-day basis. Well, I put it out there and I told, as people walk by, I told them what it was. And I said, here's the deal. You take, you replace. Here's the apparatus to replace the water. And now I've got one on the first floor. I got one on the third floor. We got two more being ordered for the fourth floor in the basement. And everybody's drinking the water. And the feedback I'm getting is that this is great. Now, number one, it saves them a ton of money. They didn't even realize the money they were spending. It's great water for them. They're remaining healthy. They got more energy and all the benefits that we know. And for the life of me, I never thought about doing this in 35 years. And here I am 35 years into the business, and I come up with this. I wasn't thinking about this, but it was still pushing out, pushing out, pushing out, pushing out. and the results are happening. And when I look at my organization, when I look at Michael's organization and the travels we had traveling the world and the people I knew from his group and the people I'm sure he knew from my group, and where did they come from? They came from conversations about stuff, life, living, how you doing, what's going on with you? Well, you got some challenges, you want to help, you need some help, whatever it was. You pull the thorn from the lion's paw and you got a lifelong friend. And that's what we do, whether it's product or business or social or whatever the case may be. But the intensity by which you got to go out there and get them at first, it's like pushing that boulder up the hill. It's a little tough in the beginning, but it gets easier as you keep climbing because the more you go up, the more support you have. And that's why we keep telling you and we keep suggesting to you and we keep trying to put in front of you, you got to build a team. You got to build a team because that's your support system. And when your team's on the same page and you're helping your team, then this becomes a riot. I mean, an absolute riot to do this business. And and you get such a good man. I can't believe the times we would go to Paris. I don't know how many times I've been in Paris. I remember with Jean Pierre, and we'd go on the Seine River and we'd go on these riverboat cruises and we'd have these dinners. We'd have guests there. We've had hundreds of people come to meetings and all on the same basis. What were they looking for? They were looking for answers. They were looking for answers to what was going on in between their ears. And what was going on between their ears was rattling in their cage and causing them to to look here, look there, do this, do this. Do you know that the average person in the United States today and probably the world changes their career 7 times? 7 times. What are they looking for? They're looking to be happy. They're looking to be satisfied. They're looking for the financial benefits. They're looking for, whatever they're looking for. And that's where we come in. And again, your job is to then provide those solutions, either economically, socially, product-wise, health-wise, however you want to do it. So, I was just again you got to be kind of you got to hit the rubber hit the road with the rubber and get your engine revved up and go like mad and we're at the last day of the month and I'm working on reaching a goal and I'm very close and I've still got a little bit of volume to accomplish to hit a level and I'm still playing the game and every month I've been playing this game for 35 years. And it's the same intensity, the same excitement, but it's playing the game that becomes so valuable. You're playing the game of life right now. You picked up a body, you started as a baby, you learned how to talk, walk, and eat, and do all those other things that the body does. And then you get older, and then you become a teenager, and then you think you know everything there is to know. Then you become a young adult. You want a family, you don't want a family. Then you travel the world. Midlife, you have your crisis, and you don't know which way you're going to go. And then you reach 60, and then you reach 70 and say, holy shit, where did it go? I mean, really, it goes that quickly. So, play the game, play to win. It's the last day of the month. If you need to qualify, qualify. Now, if you're done for the month, then let's set the next month up and get your next month ready to go and play the game again. Up your target, figure out what you did wrong, figure out what you did right, correct actions, get yourself motivated, kick yourself in the ass and say, let's go. Rev up those engines. Find somebody to play with. Man, so important. Anyway, there's my rant, Michael.
All right. Good night, everybody. That was good. Really, there's not much more to say. It's all exactly that. It's the play the game, play to win. I took some notes and whatever popped into my head. Intensity. Honestly, intensity. People know you're serious about something based on the level of intensity. Um, we One of our former CFOs who became CEO used to say, every time he looked into my eyes, he would see these sparkles. He would always talk to me about my eyes being sparkly. What he was talking about was this intensity that he sees in my eyes when I get going, when I start talking about Nikken. There's an intensity that happens. I had breakfast with a friend of mine this morning, a very powerful person in the economy here in Canada, and his family builds they're the number one builder for condominiums in Canada, and he was saying the same thing about the way I am when I talk about Nikken. I get really jazzed up. I get really on fire. It's electric. And and what is that? What is that about? It's about really connecting to, oh, and I think he was saying what you see is the potential in people. That's what gets you going, is potential. You're always thinking potential. And it was interesting to hear this really big, successful business guy reflect back to me what he sees in me, which is this idea that he sees, I see potential. I'm always thinking about the possibilities, the potential, the possibilities. And I think that's really what we're talking about when we say your vision guides you, your vision leads you, and where there is no vision, the people will perish. A passage from the Bible, I think, is super critical. So, what's your vision? And is it big enough that garners your intensity? Is it big enough that really gets you intense? Because, let's just say for all intents and purposes, you're going to accomplish 10% of what you set out to accomplish. Let's just say that's the number. Well, what do you want that 10% to be of? If it's 10% of something, well, think about that for a second. If it's 10% of something, that something has to be something that's you're going to get your result from. So 10% of a small thing is 10% of a small is even smaller. 10% of a huge thing is still pretty big, right? And it creates the intensity, the fire in your eyes. So what's that big thing? What's your big idea? That Nikken is an engine that can help you facilitate the creation of that thing. When you have that level of intensity, when you go out with the intensity to find your people, okay, they already exist, guys. Your Royal Diamond business already exists in an alternate reality. And since all realities coexist in this infinite universe, the only one you are experiencing right now is the one that your eyes and your mind is on. Your mind's eyes are on. So you got to shift your mind's eye onto something else if you want to experience something else, something bigger. So that Royal Diamond ship is the big idea that's worth really sinking your teeth into and getting all fired up and excited about, because that's going to mean you have attracted to you people with fire in their eyes. That's means you've attracted people who've attracted people, and you've got this not only a small team, but an incredibly large and exciting team, vibrant team that's doing this with or without you. But where did it start? Where does anything start? You're sitting in a room right now. That was a vision in somebody's eyes, somebody's mind at one point in time. And here it is now, reality that you're participating in. It started somewhere. And
Imagine if
so,
you owned a Coca-Cola machine on every corner of every street, and every time somebody bought a Coke, you made a nickel.
hello. And every
Hello.
single Nikken consultant that you enroll, and I don't even care if you enroll them as a customer or not. I used to be a little bit hard heavy about that, but I really, at this point in time, really don't care. Whether a person buys retail or buys wholesale, that's their business. But if they're on the computer, if they're in the system now, there's an opportunity for us to stay engaged with them. There's an opportunity for them to learn more about what's going on here at Nikken, participating in some of the calls, finding out what they didn't know, maybe getting a little bit more excited, a little bit more passionate about what it is that we're doing. And maybe, who knows, they might light up like a firecracker. So let's get them on board, however we do, but with the intensity to get people on board, because it is in their best interest. Wouldn't you agree? Like, think about it. Is it not in their best interest to drink the best water, to have a good night, restful sleep, to enjoy the nutritionals that we have that can nourish their body? I mean, are these things not practical, common sense things? Is it not in their best interest? So people are resistant, yes, and they've become more so, I think, um, the older generation, and not so much the younger generation. The younger generation, they're still full of piss and vinegar. They got all kinds of fire in their eyes, and they're looking for an answer and trying here and trying there. And they're risk takers. They're willing to take a chance. So go out there with some intensity. What are you willing to do? Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Conversations about life. I mean, we do that every day. Have more conversations. People want to associate with people who are going somewhere. Do they get a sense about you that you're going someplace? Do they get a sense about you that you know something worth knowing that they don't maybe necessarily know about? Do they get that impression from you without even speaking? And when you do speak, does it intensify that impression that I need to know more about what this person's talking about? Do they get that from you? Because you're the front face of this. You're the leading edge of the wedge. They don't get to see us on this call. They don't get to see anything about Nikan if you don't set them on fire. If something you don't say and do doesn't get them wanting to know more. Dave,
Do we have any
you're here.
nurses on the call right now?
Any nurses on the call?
Any nurse? Okay. Well, here's oh, Barbara, you're a nurse?
I am
Good. So
retired.
here's the analogy. I'm a person and I'm having all kinds of discomfort, aches. I got something going on in my belly. I got my back going on, and I come to you as a nurse. What are you going to do? Are you going to, would you tell me what you would do?
To be perfectly honest, Dave, I've helped more people since I've been in Niken than I ever did inside the walls of a hospital.
Right, but I'm still asking the same question prior to that, prior to doing Nikan, what would you have done?
Okay, tell me your complaints again.
Oh, okay. Well, my neck's kind of kinky and I got a little upset tummy and I'm having a little challenge on the potty and I'm having a hard time sleeping at night and you know, I'm gaining too much weight.
Okay, so one of the things I'd be asking you is what have you been eating? I'd ask you to explain to me fully what you've been eating and determine, are you having fresh veggies? Are you having enough roughage for that constipation problem? And how are you sleeping? You could be sleeping awkwardly, and that's why you have a crook in the neck. Or have you been slumped over a desk for hours at a time without getting up and moving around and relieving that stress on the neck?
Perfect.
There are basic,
Perfect. Perfect.
basic
Perfect.
things
Perfect.
that
Perfect. So
apply to medicine, but they
here's what
also
I'm trying
apply to
to
what we're doing now.
here's what I'm trying to get to. When you ask a question, you will get an answer. How are you today? I'm great. I'm terrible. I'm okay. I'm doing fine. Life's kind of tough. And if you ask a question and you don't get an answer, then you don't go very far. So the key to that area is the more you know and understand about your craft, the easier it is to ask the right question. Now, I started out in insurance and we were trained to ask the right question. And the question is, well, what's going to happen if something happens to you? The old death thing kind of approach, but it worked. And you ask the question, you got the answer, and then you can make the recommendation. But here's what happens up here. If I said to you, you know, would you like to make an extra $5,000? What's going on in your mind? What's going on in your mind is what you could do with $5,000. That's what goes on when you ask that question. That's why you ask the question. And if there's something going on in your mind, something going on in your life that you haven't been able to deal with, you haven't been able to handle, you're struggling with, you're upset about, you're pissed off about, you're having an argument with your spouse about, then that's going to open up the door to you wanting to know more information. Now, here is where the crossroads is. If you don't know what to do next, then it's over. If you know what to do next, then you can control the conversation and you can get the guy to buy your car and drive off the lot. See, when people walk on a lot, they not necessarily, they were thinking they might buy a car, but the good car salesman's going to get them in the car and off the lot. A poor car salesman's going to send them off to the next dealer where they'll buy the car. So we're a consumption society. It's all we do is consume. That's all we do. We consume food, we consume oxygen, we consume booze, we consume money, we consume lumber, we consume coal, we consume gasoline, we consume people. That's all we do is consume. So rest assured, people are going to consume, but it takes beans to consume. So the more you know about the intricacies of how this business works, and it's not difficult, it's really simple. The plan's laid out, you start at the bottom, you work your way out. But the way you communicate that becomes the benefit that people are seeking. They're looking for answers. And then again, where you go depends on your expertise. And your expertise is up to you. You can choose what you want to learn. You can choose what direction you want to take.
You brought up some really
Again,
good
I had
points here.
doctor. Huh?
You brought some good points. I'll tell you why. Again, coming back to confidence, your intensity is going to be in direct proportion to your vision of the future. But your confidence in that future is going to come from your experience, either your personal experience or the experience of others that you've allowed to entertain. And I'm going to show you something. One of the things that I did was I studied our business. I mean, if you consider all the things you've done to make a living, most people don't do very well when they're just winging it. They have to get to know what it is they're doing to be considered good enough to stay in that job and even exceptional if they're going to get promoted. So you have to know what you're doing. One of the things I've done was studied the business. So I've read books, lots of them. The 4-Year Career by Richard Brooke, Go Pro, Eric Worre, Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire, again, another Richard book. These are just examples of some of the books. Stephen Covey's books, Think and Grow Rich. These are things that I've read and studied to become proficient and confident in
Even
what I'm
Dave
talking
Rolf's
about.
book.
And Dave Rolf's book. And Mike DiMuccio has a book, actually. Believe it or not, Dave, did you know that? The
Yeah.
Science of the Nikken Business.
You haven't sent me one. Come on, man.
I don't even promote it. That's the problem.
Neville Goddard.
Neville Goddard. That's another book, one of my favorites. It's sitting right here. Where'd you go? Right there. Power of Awareness, my absolute favorite book. So yeah, why? Why do I say this? Well, especially the books about the industry, especially the network marketing books, because the number one objection there's really only 2 objections anybody ever comes across. Network marketing and time. Those are the only 2 that you're going to really entertain. If they get further down and they start looking at getting involved, then you might hit the money objection. But that's not really an objection, because at the end of the day, if they don't have the money to be able to get involved, then don't they want to change that situation? Then Nikken is a reason to do, not to not do. So time is one of the objections you'll get, and that means you haven't really helped them understand the value of time and how this can help them multiply time, which is the most important part of our business. It's the ability to multiply. And the other one is, what did I say it was? Oh, network marketing. Again, network marketing is just whatever they think it is. And we don't really know what they think it is until they tell us. So we need to ask them, what exactly do you mean by that? Or what's been your experience? And you get to find out what it is that they're evaluating this from. It's sometimes, I'll give you one example of an objection you might get when somebody starts talking about network marketing. They might say, oh, where all the people at the top make all the money. Have you ever heard that one? All the people, don't you mean the people
Yes.
who have the largest organizations make the most money? They don't make all the money, they make the most. Kind of like the CEOs of the corporate world, the people you work for right now. Now, the only difference is not that we make more money at the top or they make more money at the top. The difference is, what's the likelihood you're ever going to be at the top of one of those pyramids? What's the likelihood you're going to take over the CEO's position? There's only room for one at the top in that particular scenario. Whereas here, it's an unlimited, as much marketplace as there is to grow into, we can create hundreds and hundreds. In fact, you can help create some of your own. So it's not about their perception is just a perception. It's really a flawed perception because I don't know of a single human being who wouldn't trade places with me in terms of my profession, my income, and my lifestyle. I don't know of a single person who would raise an objection to the way I live. That's been facilitated by Nikan and all the things that I've been able to do with Nikan, through Nikan, and all the people who in my organization would be thankful to me for having gotten involved in Nikan and helped grow the Nikan organization and support them in some way, directly or indirectly. I don't think there's a human being alive, if they looked at my business, would say, oh, no, I wouldn't want any of that. So it's not that they wouldn't want it, it's they don't know what they don't know. And so now you have to open up their mind a little bit. You say, are you willing to listen and learn a little bit about something maybe you have a not as much of a grip on as you might think? And so, we're kind of digressing here, but the idea is intensity. Guys, the world is your oyster. People is what you do. You talk with people every single day. And if you're an entrepreneur, that is your job. Whether you're the CEO of the biggest corporation or a new startup, your job is to talk with people and create awareness and to create an interest in what it is that you're doing and attract attention to what it is that you're doing. The number one job a CEO has in a corporation is to raise money for the company. That's their number one job, is to make sure the company has the money to continue to grow. That's their number one job. If it's a public corporation, they're constantly looking for money. They're looking to sell the shares of the company and so forth. So you're the CEO right now of Nikan, of your Nikan business. You're a microcosm of the macrocosm. We're in the same game. We're doing the same thing, just at different levels of experience, maybe different levels of time. But our job function is the same. Your job function, my job function, Paul, it's the same. Our job is to attract attention, bring people to Nikan, and grow the organization. That's our job. To continue to grow the organization. That's our job. And your income is related to that. So don't think of it as transactional because that's too cheap. Oh, I sold a waterfall. Well, great. Now I sold about 10,000 waterfalls. So which business do you want to have? The one that sells one or the one that sells 10,000? Right? So that's the difference. The difference is you're now, as an entrepreneur, looking to hold that position. And your job is to sell the vision of the future and help somebody catch fire. They see the vision for themselves. And it all starts with them having a need. They won't even take a second to listen to what you have to say until you got their attention, and they don't care about you, they care about them. So when you start caring about them, then they'll start caring about you. It's like that saying, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me? Right? So that's really human nature. All right. So we are at the last day of the month. I did want to ask some of you if you wouldn't mind sharing what your experience of this month has been. Having a goal, putting that on yourself and stretching and going for it. Before we wrap up, I just want to hear if there's some experiences out there and maybe couple that with maybe what you've learned in the last couple of weeks where we got into the importance of contacting and inviting. We got into the idea of three people who want to earn what you want to earn and replicating that, the idea of creating that kind of a culture. There's a lot of really good information in the last two or three conversations we've had on this call, or those of you who joined the call on last Thursday. So let's open the floor and see, what have you taken from this? What have you begun to apply? Bela.
You know what I learned about myself? I set my sights too short.
Mm.
And that's from the last couple of calls and my experience trying to sign these people up who just keep telling me they don't have time to look at the stuff. And so they're not ready and just keeps going. And the other thing that really hit home with me, especially after listening to the contact and invite video, was I got to reach out to 81 people to find my 3. That really hit home because my expectation is, listen, look at what it's done for me. And people who know me, especially, see the huge difference in me. And I thought, well, that should inspire them to sign on, right? But no, it's not enough. I have that passion, I do, but somehow it doesn't translate into getting them to sign, right?
Mhm.
And so what I realized was I set my goals too short. I thought every person that I would approach would automatically sign on after hearing my story. It doesn't work that way. And I learned that the why has to be about them, not about me.
Bingo.
That's a big lesson. So that's why I messaged you last Thursday saying,
Yeah.
I learned something today.
That's really important what you're saying, because what you're saying is I have a why. That my why is really a good why. It's solid.
Yes.
I've got it, but it doesn't transfer to other people. It's
No.
not about that. Your why is what fuels you. It's what gives you the intensity to actually engage other people. That's your why. That's what drives you. You got to figure out what their why is and what drives them, and see if you can connect the dots. Show them how Niken can be a solution.
So that's my goal now, to figure out how to make that connection.
Well,
Because
again,
as you
the
said, it's about
question is,
building
it's all in the
relationships.
question,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And when you ask somebody for their help, as the contact and invite video suggests, when you ask somebody for their help, then they lean in, because if they're the type of person who likes to be useful and likes to
Mhm.
be edified, if you're asking me for help, that means I guess you think I'm helpful, I'm useful in some way. And that naturally leads me to lean into the conversation. And when you invite me to look at this information with no strings, this may not be for you, but maybe you might know somebody, because that's what
Right.
I'm looking for. Then all of a sudden now it's just the information. It's not about you. It's about whether or not this information is anything I can relate to, or I can somehow help you identify the person I think that might relate to it.
Yeah. So the other thing I
So,
wanted to say was that these calls are, I know where I was 2 weeks ago where I thought, well, or 3 weeks ago, that no, I'm just here to help people. And I said that on Thursday's call. And then I started realizing, what's the harm in helping myself as I help others? So it's connecting the dots, Mike, and you're really, 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 really phenomenal in helping us do that. And so that's why I come on the calls, because it fires me up and it makes me understand things in a way that I've never thought of before. Because, your selling is sometimes, we're conditioned to think it's a little shameful, it's
mm,
self-serving. So to get over that hurdle was my first thing.
wow.
And
That's awesome, Bailey. That's
yeah,
congratulations. That's a huge one. A lot of
yeah.
people don't get that far.
So let's see
They
where I
want
go
to.
with it though.
That's amazing. No, it's true, because what you just said is to get over that first hurdle of the idea that it's shameful for you to even have an expectation, what you're
Mhm.
not deserving. I'll tell you something. I'm going to say this out loud because I really believe this. I believe we have an identity crisis on this planet. I believe we
Mm.
all have an identity crisis. Can you imagine being the child of God and thinking so small of yourself? Wow.
Yeah,
So when we can get over that identity crisis and you understand your source and that you can be one with that source, then you and God, man, that's a partnership that nothing can stop.
exactly.
And
Exactly. That's where I'm at.
when you're coming from there, oof, bring it on,
Yeah. And I
right?
loved what your daughter said about you, because she's inspired because you're inspired. So what I got from that was, okay, so I'm inspired by Mike too. I'm inspired by Paula. Got into this business not to sell. So if I can inspire someone else to take themselves to one level higher than where they perceive themselves to be, haven't I already helped someone?
Amen to that. So yes, Bila,
Yeah.
and you're on the right track there,
Yeah.
because and just to answer that question, you can and you will. It's just a matter of the discipline. It's make those contacts, invite that possibility. I ask to be used all the time. Like I want to be thoroughly used up when I leave this planet. So I want to be a conduit of good. I ask for to be put in the right place at the right time, meet the right people, say the right words. Like I'm not in this alone. That's the one thing that I think is probably the driving force behind me is that I'm not in my life alone. I feel very compelled. I feel like I'm an instrument for good and I want to convey that. And so when you feel intensity coming from me, it's coming through me. It's not from me, it's through me. And I
You're
just get
speaking
to
my
sort of,
language.
I kind of just, I get to hold on to the rope and get sucked into that. And that feeling of being pulled by a powerboat kind of thing.
Yeah. So
That's the feeling.
I took a moment to look at my vision board, which I do every year. And one of the things I put on it every year is compassionate prosperity. And to me, I said, okay, you're getting the compassion part, but you're not getting the prosperity part because you're worried what you will be perceived as if you try to underwrite your own prosperity. And the thing is, you're not underwriting your own prosperity because, as you said, we have a partnership with our creator. And so our creator wants us to create
Exactly.
because view, he wants to experience creation through us.
In
So all
abundance.
these things are now coming
In
together.
fantastic ways. And what's beautiful about Nikan is that the compensation plan, the way we make money, is aligned with those values. That's what's so amazing. See, I could be very, very wealthy as a drug dealer, right? Now, I didn't say whether I was selling illicit drugs or legal drugs. See, it's not about morality.
Mm-mm.
But if I wanted to be a person of ethics, I would want it to make sure that whatever it was that I was selling, where it lands, the benefactor of it is going to have a better quality of life, a better experience of life as a result. That's my moral compass. So that limits me to what I'm going to sell. It has to be in alignment with those values, which is what I found in Niken. I found Niken is a company that aligns not only in the products, but the way we are compensated. There's no moral degradation there. It's perfectly in alignment with God's will, which is prosperity and abundance for all. God is a multiplier, if you've learned anything. And this business is all about multiplication. How can you not see that? So
Yes.
that's why we have a mandate. It's to go forth and multiply. That is what we're supposed to do. So, and the fact that you get rewarded for that, of course you're going to get rewarded for that because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is for the good of many, not just for yourself. Wes.
I didn't think I was going to get a word in edgewise. Ditto to everything that you said. I'm fully on board. One of the things that happens to me is I'll be sitting there trying to figure out what to do next, and something will tell me where to go. And I will go there and I'll just get my coffee, whatever, and somebody will come and talk to me. And eventually we get to the point where they want what I have. When that happens, I let them put their information into my cell phone. People who do that, I put a note, something really simple like 3 N's in a row. Why do I do that? Because when I want a list of who the people are I want to contact, I do a search on those 3 N's.
Mm.
And there are no names that have 3 N's in a row. So I pull up all the ones that I'm working with because there's enough of them that I lose track. So this way, I call them up, I look through, I see the notes that I put in there for myself, and I contact people. Not all the time, but on a little basis, or I'll send them a text, and eventually they come back to me. It takes a while. It doesn't happen right away, but it's on their time schedule, not mine. For example, there was one this month, and he came back to me already, and we signed him up today. It wasn't easy, I'll say. In fact, I found out he spent 2 hours on it on Friday and again on Saturday and
Oh
got.
goodness. Are we talking about the back office?
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Make notes, please. The
I
only
will.
way to resolve this is when we make those notes, because there's a million possibilities here. So make a note of what may have gone wrong. What I do is I take a little screen capture or a film of what I'm doing so I can send it to them and they can see
That's what
what I'm
I do.
experiencing.
I've been doing it for a couple of months now. But
Good,
anyway,
good.
what it allowed me to do is walk him through it
Yeah.
over the phone. I let him do it instead of me doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I saw all the stumbling points, and I have
Okay.
reported all of them.
Beautiful. Thank you, Wes.
But it's what you got to do. But I think that more people, I thought that it might be useful to know how to tag the contacts, so that I
That's
can
really good.
series of contacts.
So did y'all get that? He in his contacts, he adds three-letter ends to a contact. So when he does a search for NNN, all the names come up that he's tagged.
People
It's
that
a
I'm working with.
great way to keep track of your prospects. So you could have a tag for customers, you could have a tag for business prospects, you could have a tag. Yeah, that's a great system.
Works.
Excellent. Good stuff. Anyone else?
Hey, what you were talking about, the Lord leads me around. He really does. There's times, I mean, I can tell you stories where I'm just on my own reading a book and something says, "Oh, go read the book over there." Why? I don't want to. I'm comfortable where I am. No, go. And I'd go, and it might take a while. And I remember wanting to come home, and it said, "No, stay." And eventually the person came along that I was supposed to talk to, and I know I was supposed to talk to him because he brought up the author of the book I was reading, and he didn't see the book I was reading.
There you
You
go.
know, this
Those
thing,
little coincidences, you mean, Wes? Those
they're not
things of course they're not.
You know, and the phone rings, and you know who it is.
I've not typically been shy about talking about my faith, but I have to tell you, and I'll get to you in a second soon. My children have inspired me. My daughter Sophia and my daughter Savannah have absolutely lit me up. Do you know what? When I wake up to go get my morning coffee, Savannah's at the kitchen table studying. I'm saying studying because that's what she does every single day for an hour. She studies the Bible. I see her with her highlighter and everything. I saw my daughter Sophia doing, she's in Guatemala now, but that's what she was doing every morning, the two of them, in their own way, in their own timing. And that really turned me on. It just got me so excited to see them and hearing them and speaking with them. And then they would ask me questions or interpretations and so forth. I found that phenomenal because with all the junk that they could possibly be allowing into their mind, all the garbage that could be taking them down a path that, just leads to demise, they have found their way to this work and have found they're ignited by it. They don't put this thing down. It's every day. And so, and they recently got baptized, rebaptized, as in their choice to be baptized in water. And I was there, of course, and I was bawling my eyes out. Go figure. I'm sitting there watching my kids make this choice as adults, and I'm just bawling of joy, just complete joy that they have found such a connection. Because if they don't have that is fueling them, that's guiding them, assisting them in their daily life and their choices, then honestly, are they going to have the best chance of the best possible life? I don't think so. So their will is now aligned, and it's just a joy for me to be witnessing this in such young young people. You know, a lot of people don't make their way home until later in life, maybe never. And to see this young generation emerge as one that is, you know, I love my daughter's most recent business offering. It's called 100K God's Way. 100K God's Way. In other words, there's an association with money, but the money is made in a way that's in alignment with God's plans, purposes, and helping people, you know, really find their way, their calling. And so, I've never gone this far on a call to discuss this at this level, but I'm at a point right now where I'm so inspired by what I'm seeing and what I'm a part of. I feel so called to bring this, the comfort of being able to speak this in a way that I think can help and influence other people's lives, especially those who might be looking for a confirmation or an affirmation of a sort. Because you know, we're all needing to be inspired. We all need to be inspired to get up and to do the work that we do and to, you know, confront the challenges that we're confronting on a daily basis. Some is not, some of these things are not fun. But without that connection, I can't imagine how lost I would be, how just morally lost and maybe, you know, energetically devoid I would be, that I wouldn't have the energy to get out of bed, given the circumstances and what we're witnessing in life right now. So I think it's super, super important that if you feel that that is part of your mission, your calling, I want you to know that you're in a trusted environment here, that this is a group of people who I've worked with, many of you for decades. And we really believe in each other. We believe in what we're doing. And we know on some level that Nikan has always been divinely inspired. I got to meet the founder of Nikan on several occasions. I got to feel that warm embrace from him. And it is absolutely humbling to know that there was that level of commitment to excellence, that level of commitment to compassion, to humanity, that we have a model called humans being more. I mean, what does that tell you about who we are? Then, you know, that's really important to me. And I think that's why I've been so galvanized in Nikan, because it fed that part of me that needs to be fed. The notion that I'm involved in something that has this kind of purpose and alignment to the highest good. Sue, you're up.
Well, now continuing about Sophia, I've always in these times that I've been involved with Nikan, could never really figure out my why except to make money. And that never really turned me on, because I've always been one that has wanted to help people. So after I went through the 3-day thing of Sophia's, I listened to it, the replay, and then last Monday I did her class. I finally figured out my why. And I am really excited now because I'm building my story around my why, and how my story, my why is going to be around everything that I'm doing in regard to Nikan. And it gives me really a lot of confidence where I didn't have the confidence before. And I understand what you're saying about seeing your children doing what they're doing. My grandson, AJ, who is a star football player, by the way, he got a full ride scholarship for football and his academics. But one of the things he got his whole team doing before they would play the game is kneel in front of, they all came out and they knelt down and prayed before they did the game. And the first time I saw it, I had such goosebumps. It wasn't funny, but it's just wonderful. So now I'm excited because I have my why. And I'm going to be really moving forward. You watch and see.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
believe it. And when it's coming from a place like that, it's not thin. It's not skin thin, you know, skin deep. It's deep. And when it comes from a deep reservoir, then I don't know. I feel like you're given what you can handle. And when you open the floodgates, man, you're going to be given, you know? It's like you're saying, bring it on, like use me, and you will. You'll get some challenges, but you'll get some incredible wins out of that. Wes, you're up again.
Yeah,
Thanks, Sue.
when it comes to money, it's not about the money. It's what you want to do with it. I donate money to a number of what I think are pretty important causes, and I can't donate enough. And I am really looking to make more money so that I can donate more. I really do feel that there are organizations that need our help. And I think a healthy society comes from having a healthy family. You know, this whole thing, we need the finances because we need to change the world around us, and money does that.
It really does. And money in the hands of good people is good. And I think we're good people. If you found this place, it wasn't by accident. And I'm sure you know this message. I'm sure this message is resonating with you, otherwise you wouldn't stay on. And that, just think about it. We need more money in the hands of people who know to do good with it. We're not, there's only so much you can enjoy for yourself. But if you make that money by way of helping other people realize their potential and what it is that they want, the way you made the money governs the way you're going to continue to behave. If you made the money taking advantage of people, you're going to continue to take advantage of people in bigger ways. But if you made the money serving people, you're going to continue to serve people in bigger ways. Just makes you more of it. It's a multiplier. So it's time. I really believe it's time for the money to be in the hands of the people who can do good with it and multiply it in a good way. I think that's our time is now. And you don't be embarrassed or shy about when somebody says to you, "Oh, is this network marketing?" Don't cower. Stand tall and say, "Oh my God, thank God it is." Because if it wasn't, I wouldn't want anything to do with it. Have you looked at the corporate environment lately?
There you go.
Just do the unexpected. And then they're going to want to know, why are you so overzealous about that? Like, why? What have you seen that I haven't seen? What do you get that I don't get? And then you can explain
This
what
is
you
the
get.
easiest tool to use to keep up with inflation. And you really need to have a cash flow business to keep up with the cost of things. And Nikon is perfect for that because everything that you spend the money on is for yourself, for your own well-being, and helping others to do the same thing is where you develop the income that you can decide how best to use. But it's
Yes, I got everything everybody wants.
yourself.
I got the one thing everybody wants: more time and more money. I got the one thing everybody wants: more time, more money. You want to know about it? Yes or no? I mean, that's what I got. And if you don't want it, that's fine. If it's not configured in a way that works for you, that's fine too. But I know I got that, and I got it to share.
You sold me, Mike.
Okay, well, we still got a bit of time before the month is out. I'd rather send you back out into the field and make use of this conversation with whatever minutes or hours we have left. What do you think?
There you go.
Let's come back next week with a real light. And don't forget, tomorrow night's call is the kickoff call. I know there's some great stuff to be talked about. So see you then.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mike. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.